Hey friendlies, it's Carolyn and welcome back to our RV life. Today let's talk about relationships and the solo nomad. I want to answer the questions that I get asked the most about being alone out here. And number one is, do I ever get lonely? And number two, do I have friends and family, and how does that all work into your nomad life? And number three, what do you do about being lonely and being alone? For those of you who are thinking about coming out here and don't want to be alone, I get questions a lot about how do I find people to travel with? So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that too as number three. People always ask me, well, don't you get lonely being on the road by yourself all the time? And the answer I can honestly tell you is not very often. Being an introvert, I really like being alone. I really like my own company. I find that I am more at ease, I'm more relaxed, I'm more at peace, I'm more energized, I'm more creative when I'm by myself. And I think those are some of the signs of being an introvert. What I learned about introversion versus extroversion is that extroversion, not extraversion, is how we draw our energy. And an introvert, and people constantly confuse me for an extrovert because I'm very outgoing. I'm very, what did they used to call me, bubbly. I used to do a ton of public speaking. I'd go to networking events. I'm very outgoing. I'm not very shy. I can be, but I've learned to overcome that. So people often mistake me for an extrovert, but an introvert can be very outgoing. The difference is in how we recharge. And as an introvert, I can be outgoing as I need to be for limited periods of time. So when I'm outgoing, when I'm bubbly, when I'm on, like if I was doing I used to do these boot camps, if I was doing a seminar, or even if I was speaking for an hour or going to a networking event, or even just being with friends, especially really bubbly, outgoing, extroverted friends, I would then need time alone to decompress and recharge. And that's what an introvert is. We can be out and we can be social, but we need time alone. We need quiet time to recharge our batteries to get us ready for the next time that we have to be out. An extrovert, on the other hand, and I dated an extrovert a few years ago. Oh my God, he drove me nuts. He constantly had to be going and doing. He was constantly arranging dinners for us and cocktail parties and events with other people, and let's go to the baseball game and let's go here and let's have this dinner and oh my gosh, enough, no more. It was completely overwhelming to me. Oh, completely overwhelming. It just exhausted me. But that's how an extrovert operates. Extroverts, where an introvert needs to recharge, needs to be alone to recharge, extroverts draw their energy from being with people. They draw their energy from other people. And that's the main difference between an introvert and an extrovert. So I get emails from a lot of people who say, oh my God, I could never do what you could do. I could never be out there by myself. Well, you're probably an extrovert. There are a lot of extroverts in this community, and I can think of a few YouTubers. They all travel together. They love company. So there are both. You can be an introvert out here and you can have as much company as you want, or you can be an extrovert and find groups to travel with. For me, I like being by myself. And as you know, I over the last year, I had a friend or two that I would travel with on and off, but about 80%, maybe 75% of the time, I traveled and camped alone with my beloved dog, wherever he is. And that's just how I choose to live my life. It's how I lived my life before I lived in an RV, and it's how I choose to live my life now. And so I don't really get lonely. For me, part of the challenge and what I'm kind of the phase I'm in right now in my life, and I'm going to share this personal with you because I hear from women all the time, and I know you're going to be able to relate to this. In relationship, I seem to have I seem to be challenged with holding on to myself. I was married for 13 years, and I became, in those 13 years, everything my ex-husband wanted me to be. You know, I was his drinking and drugging buddy. I learned the starting lineup of the San Francisco Giants every year, the pitchers' ERAs. I learned the difference between a tackle and a safety in football. I learned all his classic rock bands and went to his classic rock band concerts, and I took care of his kids. I had stepkids that I raised part-time, and I basically just cooked all, you know, became the Susie homemaker, remodeled the house, cooked the meals, you know, brought home the bacon, the whole 9 yards. You know, I did all that. And in the meantime, I didn't do anything that feeds Carolyn. I didn't do any backpacking. I didn't go do the things that stimulate me creatively, intellectually, and I lost myself. 12 years into the marriage, I woke up, quit drinking, and realized, who the heck is this person? And it was almost a year to the day after quit drinking that I asked him, I told him I wasn't happy. And it was, you know, I'd been in therapy for a couple of months, hoping that it would be couples counseling, hoping that we could maybe work on the marriage. And it took me a while to get up the nerve, because by that time we were living like roommates, and it was so hard to talk about anything real. And I finally blurted out, I'm not happy. And he was like, well, yeah, I kind of sensed that. And I said, well, I think that some things need to change. I had quit drinking. He hadn't. And I never gave him an ultimatum. I never said he had to quit drinking. And he's like, well, what's going on? And I said, well, it might help if you took a look at your drinking. Get a life. Get off your butt. Go make some friends. I told him, go get some friends. Go out. Do something. Get interesting again, you know? Maybe come to the gym with me. Just try to maybe live a healthier life alongside me. I had lost 50 pounds. I'd quit drinking. I was working out. I was building my business. I was thriving. And I just wanted him to come along and be a part of that with me. His answer was, will you stay with me if I do that? And I wasn't going to lie. I said, I don't know. I don't know who you would be. I don't know who I'm going to be. But why don't we try? And he basically said no. He basically said, if I couldn't guarantee that I was going to stay with him, what's the use? Why bother? And he kind of walked away and said, boy, and I thought we were soulmates. Still hurts a little bit to talk about it to this day. Our 13-year marriage ended in a 20-minute conversation of me, for the first time in 13 years, asking for something. And that's what it felt like. So I have learned over the last 7 or 8 years that I have been divorced. It's been a process for me of learning how to be in relationship without sacrificing who I am and what makes me happy and what I need to thrive. And being an introvert, this phase that I'm in right now, I'm loving being alone. Sure, if I could find someone who I can be with and still be Carolyn, still be adventurous and curious and creative and energetic and giving and loving, and get some of that in return, that's the big one. I have a really bad habit of giving and giving and giving without expecting or getting a whole lot in return. And sure, you know, if I could find someone, and maybe that's the secret to relationships and the secret to being happy in a relationship, is finding that balance. And I think the most successful, happy couples find that balance and of give and take, that one person can't be doing all the giving like I did in my marriage. At the end of 13 years, I had 0 left to give, 0. And I tried to turn the baton over to him and say, here, can you give for a while? And he said no. And so here I am out on the road. Well, you know, I'll spare you 7 years of bad relationships in between, many bad relationships. But, I guess looking back, they weren't bad. With every relationship, I learn something about myself. I feel like, and now that I'm clean and sober, everyone, I see something new, I learn something new, I'm more aware, and even though I don't need a man in my life, even though I am very content being by myself, I do feel that someday if Mr. Right walked through my door and and was willing to share the responsibility of the relationship with me and lifting each other up and sharing, and having more balance, I want to be ready for it. And maybe I'm not ready for it yet. And that's why I'm out here by myself, working on myself. Just because I'm out here by myself, I'm still in therapy once a week by phone. I am still working on myself, and I am still trying to learn and grow. And so every once in a while I do get lonely, and I think the longer I'm out here, I think the more it's happening. I'm coming off the end of Labor Day weekend, and some of the loneliness comes around holidays. Since I was in a campground seeing other people, I left that's another thing. So yes, I do have friends. I have a few very, very close friends. One of my best friends, I've known her for 25 years. In the Bay Area. I have a couple other really close friends in the Bay Area, but I can't just drive down the street and go knock on their door and say, hey, or call them up and say, hey, let's go for coffee or let's go have dinner, So the best I can do now is stay in touch by email and text and phone calls, and that's what I do. And I stay in touch with all of you. And honestly, a lot of the contact that I get online is usually enough for me. So I'm pretty content most of the time. Like I said, I travel alone maybe 80% of the time, maybe more now. It seems like lately I've been traveling more alone, maybe 90% of the time. And most of the time I'm pretty content with that. So, but for those of you who don't want to be alone, there is, the RTR, the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, is coming up in January. There's the Escapees Club. I think there's a couple other ones. Escapees is a big one. But just Google RV clubs or full-time RV clubs, or go to campgrounds, or even some of the more popular boondocking spots, or some of the other YouTubers even. I know my friend Bob always welcomes people in his camp, and some of the other YouTubers, I think, welcome people in their camp. So you can always find community if that's what you want out here. You're only alone as much as you want to be out here. And there's plenty of opportunities for both, to be alone and to be with community. So if you want a little bit of both, I know that people often travel together for a little while, and then they go off by themselves for a while, and then they travel together and they come together, and or they group hop maybe. So those are some of the things that you can do. And as far as relationships, I do get emails from people who ask about relationships. Actually, a couple people have suggested I set up a singles site for solo nomads, solo RVers. They're like, why don't you start a dating site? And I'm like, yeah, in my spare time. Sure, I need another project like I need another hole in Matilda, right? But if any of you want to do that, there seems to be a need for it. More than a few people have asked me if I would do that. It's not something I really want to do. Dating sites are so part of my past, and definitely not something I ever want to have to do again. But so some people do ask, well, what about relationships and romantic relationships out there? And how do people do that? I don't know, actually. I think I've heard at the RTR, actually, I heard of a couple of relationships that started out. Actually, yeah, now that I think about it, I can think of like maybe 2 or 3 different relationships that started out here. They met at the RTR, or they met in a boondocking spot or whatever, and they've lived happily ever after as a nomad couple. Actually, now that I'm probably like 4 different couples. So yeah, I suppose you can find love out here too if that's what you're looking for. And I think maybe the concern is that they are going to be so far removed from society and people that they're just going to be alone forever, and that scares some people, or it's just not what they see for their future. So they wonder what's out here as far as possibilities for relationships. I will say that I meet a lot of single men. I meet a lot of single solo men out here. And I will say that one of the things that I cherish most in my life since my marriage, and that is my male friends. I have 3 or 4 male friends that I value very much. A couple backpacking buddies, and of course my nomad friend Bob, and I just love the men that I meet, and I love having the male friendships that I have made along the way. For me, that kind of feeds the need for male companionship in my life. I joked with a couple girlfriends a couple years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, now that I'm not trying to date every man I meet, I really like men. So a lot of you want to call me man hater and all the other things. I'm not, but far from it. I am definitely not a man hater. I love men, and I actually found that I really love male friendships very much. And actually in college, I had 3 male roommates, and that was the best experience, roommate experience I ever had. Just so easy. They were just so, no drama, just really easy to live with. Of course, their tolerance for dirt was a lot higher than mine, so I did most of the cleaning. But so I guess that's my little talk about relationships and the solo nomad. We all come out here with our own histories, our own stories, our own needs. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts, some of us love being alone, some of us don't like being alone, some of us are looking for love, some of us aren't. Our community is as diverse as the real world community, and I think that whatever you're looking for, you can find out here, whether it's friendship, whether it's companionship, whether it's love. I think if you're looking for it, you can probably find it. And as far as what I do when I'm lonely, for those of you who do think you want to spend most of the time alone, like I said, my online world really feeds a lot of the need, a lot of my need for companionship. I have a couple pen pals now that I communicate with who are just so supportive of all of my work on YouTube, and really have just become my support group. Big hugs. Love you guys. And I have my friends in the Bay Area that I talk to, not as often as I'd like. One of the things that I will say that I didn't realize is how this lifestyle was really going to kind of isolate me from a lot of the conveniences or the friendships and the conveniences of my life. For example, if I wanted to go to Greece, I would just drop Capone off at my ex-husband's. We shared custody of Capone like that for a while. I can't do that now. I'm in Tennessee. I'm 2,000 miles away from the Bay Area. And so if I want to go somewhere, I have to drive to the Bay Area to drop Capone off at my ex-husband's. And so, 15 months out here now, I haven't gone anywhere. I can't backpack because he can't go with me. So the things like that I really didn't think all the way through and didn't really consider when I came on the road, and how limited I am, partly because he's an older dog, and partly just because he's a dog, and what am I going to do with him? I can't go. I want to go to Patagonia. That's my next one. I really want to go backpack in Patagonia, and I can't just go there. I'm not going to leave him in a kennel at this point. Maybe if he was younger, I'm not just going to go drop him off at a strange kennel. No, that's not going to work. And so the only option for me is to drive back to the Bay Area, where I know I can leave him someplace safe, and I actually might do that sometime in the next year. So, and the other thing is, I can't just call up a friend and say, hey, do you want to go have coffee? I have friends, I have nomad female friends, and we just haven't been able to connect. We had planned on connecting this summer, but I came to Florida to support my friend instead. But ladies, I know you're out there, and I do look forward to seeing you soon, and hopefully getting to travel with them soon. I am kind of hungry for female companionship right now. So that's all I have. That's my spiel about living alone on the road in an RV with my dog, and how do I deal with loneliness, how I deal with companionship, and and is there a potential for a romantic relationship in my future? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not looking. Honestly, I'm not actively looking. If it happens, it happens. I'm not averse to it, that's for sure. So we'll see. I don't know what the future holds, but I think that the real peace came for me a few years ago when I realized that I don't need a man to be happy, and that if I live the rest of my life without a significant other, that'll be okay. It'll be okay. All right, but I love you guys. My YouTube buds, my friendlies. I don't know. I hope that was helpful for you. For those of you who are thinking about coming out here, I hope that did give you something to think about, some inspiration, some food for thought. Until next time, I will see you soon. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. And I will see you down the road. Puppy. I love my puppy. So do I get lonely? How could I get lonely with this guy?